Learning begins when you're a small child and you start to experience the world and make meaning out of those experiences. For many years in science, we have been trying to focus more on inquiry-based learning, where kids are exploring questions and trying to make sense out of things and developing evidence-based explanations.
Hey, one thing I noticed, the actin kind of surrounded the myosin.
Can you explain?
Like in the picture, like the actin was like this, and then the myosin was in the middle.
Oh, and then it had like all the branches. I guess we could say that.
And that's a different way of teaching. It's a way of teaching that can be used in social studies and English and math. It's not unique to science. The classroom that you could walk into today and see this might look kind of chaotic. It might look noisy because kids are working and talking in groups and discussing. But I don't see a teacher up front, presenting information.
3.5 minutes left for you to make sure you're meeting and looking at every single source.
So we're asking teachers to potentially teach in a way that's very different than the way they've taught in the past, and maybe even different than how they've even learned themselves when they were in school. And so you kind of ask yourself, how can I teach in a way that I've never experienced as a learner? Well, one of the ways to address that is to give teachers the opportunity to experience that kind of learning. And if it's actually the same experiences that the students are going to do in the curriculum, then it's helping build confidence of not only what it feels like to learn this way, but now I see what my role is going to be when I'm facilitating that same kind of learning with students.
We know the candy has what in it?
Oil. Or palm oil.
Palm oil.
So is there a connection to my candy now? Yes. Okay, and that connection is, what did you say it was?
It's the palm oil.
Just the palm oil, all right. Because that's an ingredient?
Yes.
Okay.
And so just as students make meaning out of their experiences, teachers need to experience this kind of teaching so they can make meaning out of it, to understand what it means for them to teach this way.
Well, is it a before and after?
Oh, that's
Do you think like the top one's before and the second one's after the steroids?
I have for wonders, what is the second gal's diet? It kind of looks like it's on steroids, like just slightly.
It's either on steroids or it has a lot of body
Are they
fat.
male?
This type of experience that is anchored in the instructional materials teachers will use with their students is referred to as curriculum-based professional learning. The design features and enabling conditions for curriculum-based professional learning offer a framework to plan and execute this transformative approach to professional learning.
By us being in student hat and the facilitator being the teacher, now I'm able to see that. So it's not the facilitator just saying, oh, at this point you bring up these talk moves and you ask these questions. He or she is really modeling. How are you going to get this group of adults who know what they're doing to that next step? And that's something I can apply to my own students to get them to that next step.
What do people think about bigger cells? Take a look around. Do we have agreement on that?
No.
No. So I'm going to add a question mark for bigger cells. Bigger cells, maybe.
If you hadn't experienced the curriculum in professional learning, you wouldn't know that. You would just kind of want to fix everything right at the moment as opposed to trust the process, trust the curriculum. Okay, I know my kids are having difficulty now, but they'll work it out. I know that there's future lessons, there's other things we're going to do. They're going to help all the things come together.
Curriculum-based professional learning is new. I found in traditional professional learning, your purpose was to learn one part of a lesson or one particular thing. In curriculum-based professional learning like this, you're learning the entire picture. You're seeing start to finish how a curriculum plays out. So you now have a bit more confidence to be able to bring this back into your classroom and be able to get your students from that start through the process to the end. Now remember, let's add our questions at the bottom because our question is, what caused this buff fish to be so much bigger than the typical fish?
It takes more time for teachers to engage in the learning experiences like students would and then reflect on it in a teacher mode. We often start with the first unit and then say you're on your way, go forth and prosper. We wouldn't teach students that way. Every unit deserves some level of professional learning to help teachers continue to go deeper into understanding how the curriculum is put together, but also to learn the content more deeply and the challenges of that particular unit, and not expect teachers to figure it out on their own.
Right. And now we've added the variation of medium muscle.
Right.
And so...
And is there a clear boundary between any of those labels? No, there's
No.
not.
I mean, there's one more extreme than the other.
Right.
But in terms of that variation, it's super subjective.
Yes.
And we were saying there might be some students that might have a tough time with that,
Right.
and that's fine.
I mean, this is real, right? Like we're not cherry picking the data to look one way or the other. This is reality, and that's why I think this works so well, because there is a lot of gray area in there.
Another thing that this kind of professional learning requires is skilled facilitation, because the facilitators are not just creating a learning experience for the teachers, they're actually also modeling what their role is going to be when they move into the classroom and teach this way.
We have these questions. What do we need to do or have information that will enable us to begin answering those questions?
So the facilitators will ask you, tell me more. What do you mean? Could you explain that differently? You're embedded, you're practicing, you're, as a student, seeing what you can see as the teacher. So it's neat to be in that opposite role.
I've been teaching for 19 years, teach 7th and 8th grade. You're always learning as a teacher, but having the facilitators being able to break it down and have you practice it, and then having a PD after a PD after a PD so you can come back and say, okay, well, I've done this, how do I do that? There's something about feeling what it feels like as a learner, noticing where the discovery moments are for yourself so you can really make that happen for the kids as well.
In education, we're really good at picking really innovative approaches. We're not always good at supporting the implementation of those approaches. And so there needs to be somebody in a leadership position who can continue to make sure that teachers have the time and the resources and the support. Teachers need to know that it's a safe environment to make some mistakes, because this isn't going to be easy the first time. And so a leader that creates that opportunity for a safe space for the teachers to learn to get better at this kind of teaching is really important.
If I were to have a discussion with administrators within my district, I would tell them that the biggest shift that I have seen in my teaching career over the course of the last 35 years has been with the opportunity to be in a professional learning environment. That has been ongoing, that has been with a community of learners, and that has had the greatest effect on any shift in teaching that I have had. I really believe that without this ongoing curriculum-based professional learning, I would not have been as successful in my classroom, because it's been a really big shift in how I teach my students and how my students learn, and where they came from and where I want them to go.
Teachers deserve the highest quality professional learning to support the implementation of new instructional materials and curriculum. The elements of curriculum-based professional learning provide the essential guidance for transforming teaching and student learning.